hospitality industry was one of the worst impacted during the pandemic. Lockdowns, shuttered restaurants, job losses, and apprehensive diners made things look extremely bleak for the sector in 2020. Increase in food deliveries and COVID proofing the restaurants for people to dine out again eventually became a part of the new normal. However, just as the industry was trying to find its feet, the bird flu scare gripped the capital in January this year and impacted footfalls once again. Anurag Katriar, President, National Restaurants Association of India, tells us how the sector is gearing up to get things going again. Welcome, Anurag, and thank you for talking to ET Rise.
Thank you, Neha, for having me here. And it's always good to chat up with you.
2020 was a tough year for the food and hospitality industry. Now that you look back, what have been the key learnings from that period of turbulence?
Seriously speaking, this was a year where we faced a crisis which none of us had ever imagined in the most bizarre of our dreams that we will ever be facing this. We have faced crisis earlier, where restaurants, businesses have been impacted, but it was never shut down like this. This was a complete shutdown. It came pretty much unannounced because when the lockdown was announced, none of us thought it will last for so many months. We all thought it's a temporary phase and we'll get out of it. And that's the reason, in fact, if you remember, NRAI had asked its members to shut down their restaurants as a precautionary measure about a week before the government lockdown was announced. Now, what has it done is basically it has shattered several dreams. It has completely, it has hit the very basic structure of the trade. The most pathetic part in all this was the job losses. We are a very massive employer of human capital. We give direct employment to 7.3 million people. And when 30% of your restaurants shut down permanently and others are working with limited capacities and limited footfalls, that means you had lost 45% of your workforce, which is well over 3 billion people. And that has been the most sad part of it. We did whatever we could to make the blow a little softer, but end of the day, this was a massive blow. So 2020, well, best forgotten. And, I wish I could erase it off the calendar.
Just as people were getting comfortable with going out, the bird flu scare came up as a deterrent. Has business been able to move back to normalcy after the ban order was lifted?
Now, as far as bird flu is concerned, it was more impactful in the north of India. And as you know, initially, a few municipal corporations in Delhi, they in fact sent out a circular that restaurants cannot serve poultry or eggs. Uh, we made representations to them. We said that, first of all, it doesn't make any scientific logic because we are serving cooked food. And once cooked, there is no scare of any bird flu in human consumption. And secondly, it definitely hurts the consumption sentiments. And that was the bigger worry, that what if consumers decide not to step out at all, because you can't deny that poultry is the most loved meat for non-vegetarians, especially up north. So it was tough, but luckily the government, the corporation, they heard our plea and they reversed the order. And I think the consumption has come back to the pre-order numbers in a couple of days. People realize that it's safe to eat cooked meat.
What are the consumer trends and footfalls that you're seeing now in the F&B sector? And do you foresee signs of recovery for the industry later this year?
Yes, so I'll tell you, it's not very uniform across the nation. Certain states and cities are doing better than others. For example, Karnataka and Punjab has shown better recovery than a few other states like Maharashtra or Delhi, NCR, etc. But going forward, I'm very hopeful. By the third quarter of the coming fiscal, consumption will be back to very good levels. I would not compare it to pre-COVID numbers yet, but I think once people are out of this fear of COVID, then the second quarter, typically July, August, September, is monsoon and Shraddh and Navratras and Ganpati and all. So there is anyway a little muted consumption. But after that, I definitely see good days ahead for the sector.
NRAI has time and again stressed the importance of a robust e-commerce policy which protects traditional businesses and allows them fair opportunity. How can such a move help the industry at this time?
See, I think it's more about regulation. Right now, when you look at the e-commerce policy, I think it is very vague on the food service part, whether they are covered under the e-commerce policy or not. But the good thing is that the government is working on it. There is a group of secretaries, a committee has been formed, which is formulating the new e-commerce policy for food service. We have given our inputs to them. And once that comes, I think it will create a more level playing field for people. We need a control of our data because end of the day, if there is any inefficiency or discomfort with the food served, then the onus lies with the restaurants. And how do you do that if you don't have access to your own data? Now, at the same time, the marketplace, which the aggregators are, they cannot be players as well. And when the aggregators come up with their own brands, they have a massive advantage over others because they use the data of the partner restaurants to know what the trends are, and then they can create their own brands and they can push it. Algorithmically, it's possible to do that. And there are several other things. End of the day, very simply put, what is an aggregator platform? It's a marketplace where buyer and seller come together and they do the trade on their agreed terms. Today, what is happening that term is being decided by the aggregator. It could be a birthday of the brand, or it could be, no cooking kind of a thing. And restaurants are bound to participate in that. Otherwise, their algorithm just put you way back. This is a little bit of an unfair thing. If it's my business, I decide the terms on which I would like to sell. A third party should not be doing that. Similarly, there has to be some structure and logic to the commissions being charged. you know and right now it's very unilateral. It's very unilateral in the hands of aggregators. Essentially, they are controlling the entire landscape right now. If you don't take the complete bouquet of service, which is from ordering to marketing to service delivery, you are not even allowed to be listed on the platform. That's unfair. So we are looking at a couple of other things like this, where I think a policy decision will clarify for every party. And then probably I think the e-commerce in food service will see a far better and far more what I call a profitable growth for everyone. Right now, where is the growth story there? Aggregators are bleeding, restaurants are bleeding. Year-round discount means that the government is getting lesser taxes. So nobody's really benefiting in all this. We need to create a business model where everybody is profiteering, everybody makes money, and that's what we are seeking in the new e-commerce policy.
What are some of the aspects that you would want to be included for the F&B sector in the budget this year?
Oh, there are basically, if I have to put it in very small basket, there are three things that we are seeking. One is, of course, liquidity support to make sure that more restaurants don't die. What is stopping why are restaurants shutting down? Because we don't have the resources right now to sustain ourselves. We know we have to fund losses for probably another 6-7 months. Where does the money come from? We are seeking a little rationalization in the GST policy for the restaurants. Currently, if you see, there is only one bracket. You collect 5% and you pay 5% to the government. I think with no input tax credit available, it really ups the cost of doing business for restaurants and also the cost of setting up a new place. So what we are seeking is that we understand the trauma of going through this whole e-filing and everything for a smaller player. So maybe create 4 slots, which are based on the turnovers of the company, and give them different rates and different things. Third, of course, as I said, is the policy on e-commerce, because e-commerce is here to stay. We want it to grow further, but we want a policy which helps us, grow in a more fair and even manner.
On that note, thanks a lot, Anurag, for talking to ET Rise, and we hope things look up for the sector in 2021.
Thank you, Neha. It was lovely talking to you.